The silence that followed was so loud that fans watching the live couldn't believe what they had just heard. Screenshots, voice notes, the kind of evidence that doesn't just hint at betrayal, but exposes it in unquestionable terms. Jim Jones. Didn't show them yet, but the fact that he said he had them was enough to send shockwaves through the hip-hop community, and people began searching the internet for any clue that might support Jim's claims. It wasn't just gossip anymore. It was a mystery unfolding in real time, with Jim Jones at its center. The comments kept coming in, with people tagging Chrissy in every post they could find. But from both of them, there was radio silence, no statements, no denials, and no confirmation that silence only served to heighten the drama if it wasn't true. Another wrote, "This got real too fast. I feel like we're watching a whole relationship fall apart right in front of us." Jim, however, didn't back down. Later that night, he posted a black screen with a single line in white text that read, "Loyalty over everything, even love." Within minutes, blobs picked it up, and screenshots of his story were all over the place. Fans speculated as to what it meant. Was he done with Chrissy? Was he done with Camron? Most importantly, was this the start of a full-blown fallout between two of hip-hop's most iconic figures? Behind the scenes, Jim reportedly stated that he hadn't been sleeping much, that he'd been pacing, thinking, replaying conversations in his head, and, agonizingly, he still hadn't confronted Chrissy directly, not fully, according to someone. Close to the Jim had only hinted and used metaphors in the hopes that she would confess, but she continued to act as though nothing was wrong, which only made him spiral further. Then, a mysterious anonymous account shared a screen capture of what appeared to be a private event Camron with Chrissy standing a little too close. The audio was low and muffled, but you could hear laughter, and then there was a moment when Camron leaned in to whisper something to her. Chrissy's smile lingered too long, and the energy between them was undeniable. The clip went viral in minutes, and fans analyzed it frame by frame. Jim didn't directly acknowledge the clip, but the following day he went live again. This time, his tone was calmer, less emotional, and more focused. "I just want the truth," he said calmly. "Not excuses, not lies, just the truth." He didn't mention mains, he didn't have to, and everyone already knew who he was talking about. He ended the romance abruptly after just 5 minutes, leaving fans with more questions than answers. Meanwhile, Chrissy was under pressure, so she started to hide comments on her recent posts, stopped going live, and didn't show up for a public appearance she had been promoting for weeks. Fans noticed right away that she was hiding someone who commented, "I know Jim isn't playing Camron." She continued to post as if nothing was happening, including memes and throwback photos, but if you look closely, some of his captions were beginning to feel pointed. For example, he wrote, "Sometimes silence is the loudest response." Fans took that as a direct shot at Jim, implying that Cam wasn't going to feed into the drama in public, but behind closed doors, things were boiling. Maury insiders started speaking out anonymously. One claimed that this wasn't the first time tensions have flared between Jim and Camron over trust issues. There's always been this underlying competition between them. The sources said, "Did their brothers, hers, yeah. Hey, but they've had their battles, and a woman being in the middle made it worse. Just when things couldn't get any messier, someone close to Chrissy allegedly leaked the text conversation. And the messages weren't explicit, but they showed a very cozy, flirty tone between her Camron. Nothing incriminating, but again, none. The timing, NG, and the energy pointed to something deeper, and Jim, he posted a cryptic video to Thestry05 of just him walking alone through the city. At night no caption, no music. C fans interpreted it as a sign that he was distancing himself from everyone. Now, the narrative had grown bigger than anyone expected. It wasn't just about Chrissy and Camron. It was about trust, betrayal, and what happens when personal relationships and public lives collide. Fans were split in the most chaotic way, with some supporting Jim and others claiming he was overreacting without evidence. However, it was evident that the damage had been done because fans began making timelines, comparing footage from previous years, and analyzing moments where Chrissy and Cam had even the slightest interaction. Those who had never been interested in Dipset drama were now completely engrossed in the story, treating it as if it were a real-life reality show. Just when everyone thought the storm might subside, Jim did something that rekindled it all. In Sapsinoy, a separate interview, he was asked about the state of loyalty in the industry. He shook his head and grinned, saying, "Loyalty, I used to think it was real slal. Now I know better." The interviewer tried to push Jim, but he remained evasive, and the implication was obvious. Meanwhile, Chrissy remained silent, posting no stories or posts, and that silence became the loudest sound in the room. The internet guilt, or if she was simply overwhelmed and waiting for the storm to pass. However, there was one moment that really rocked fans. A leaked audio clip surfaced that purportedly showed Jim speaking on the phone with a member of his inner circle. His voice was heavy and exhausted, and I felt like the last person to know. That line went viral, and fans used it in captions, reactions, and auto-tune remixes. It became the heartbreaking soundbite of the entire thing. Saga, and even though the truth hadn't been fully revealed, the damage was undeniable. Friendships were strained, trust was broken, and Jim Jones, who was known for his strength and loyalty, seemed more human than ever before. As the city watched, fans analyzed every word and every post, leaving one question hanging in the air. Would Jim forgive them? Or was this betrayal too deep to ever come back from the internet? Tensions had been building behind the scenes for weeks, and no one anticipated the Dipset rapper to completely collapse on air during a raw, unscripted segment. Jim dropped a bombshell that left fans gasping, accusing Chrissy of betrayal and hinting at a scandalous night involving none other than Camron. A frenzy of speculation across social media, with fans desperately trying to piece together what really happened. Was it just a misunderstanding, or is there more to this Camron and Chrissy connection than anyone realized? With emotions running high, whispers of private conversations, and cryptic post resurfacing, everyone's watching to see what comes next as the podcast episode continues to go viral. Jim's words echo across the internet, raw, pained, and drenched in heartbreak. The betrayal he hinted at has opened old wounds, dragged in old friends, and now the entire hip-hop world is watching, waiting, and wondering just how deep this story really goes. The days that followed were thick with tension. No official statements, no clarifications, just silence. And in that silence, fans created their own truths. Threads on social media spiraled into endless theories. Sami believed Chrissy had been emotionally distant 4 months. Others claimed Camron had always carried a hidden torch for her. Our new one had the answers, S, but everyone had opinions, S, and that only added more. Then there was a sudden turn of events. A grainy behind-the-scenes video from a recent music video shoot in which both Camron and Chrissy were reportedly present was leaked. It showed them having a private conversation off to the side, and the body language was intimate, not romantic, but too close. Chrissy leaned in as Camron whispered something, and she touched his arm briefly before leaving. There was no sound or context, but for a public that was already hungry for scandal, it was enough. Later that same night, Jim posted a single sentence to Twitter. "I was always the last to know because fans didn't need an explanation. They had already connected the dots within minutes, and it was trending not just in hashtags, but also in edited clips, commentary videos, and fan art." Rumors were now spreading like wildfire. One insider claimed Jim had hired a private investigator weeks ago when he first got suspicious. Another said he had already confronted Chrissy off camera, and that it didn't nothing could be confirmed D. But the lack of denial only made people believe it more. Chrissy's friends allegedly tried to reach out to her, but she wasn't answering calls. Her social media remained dormant, an unusual silence for someone who normally posted regularly. Why Camron? However, continued to act unfazed. He uploaded a series of photos from an old tour, smiling with fans, S, flashing jewelry, Andy, and writing cryptic captions like, "So many stories don't need explaining, G fanses were torn, An, was he trolling, G, deflecting, G, or was this all just a coincidence? Either way, his refusal to deny or defend only deepened the suspicion behind closed doors. Things were unraveling. Jim's inner circle, once tight and loyal, L, began fracturing. Somi sided with him. Others quietly tried to stay neutral, LL, not wanting to get caught in the crossfire. One of Jim's longtime friends reportedly told a blog that I've never seen Jim this broken. And this betrayal hit him differently because it came from both his brother and his woman. The emotional weight was evident in Jim's demeanor during a surprise guest appearance at a charity event. When a fan asked him if he was okay, he just nodded and continued to walk without saying anything or smiling. Then, in yet another blow, a former close friend of Chrissy's who hadn't spoken to the media in years revealed that she had once seen an awkward moment between Chrissy and Camron during a private party back in 2018. "I didn't think much of it then," she said. "But looking back now, it all makes sense again. Nothing solid but enough to keep the fire burning." Jim felt cornered at last. In a recent live video, he broke his silence once more. This time, he wasn't yelling or accusing. Instead, he was calm. "I'm not saying names, but when you give someone your loyalty and they treat you like a fool, it changes you." His voice cracked once, barely, when he said, "Sometimes the people you love the most are the ones who hurt you the worst." He ended the live after just 6 minutes. There was no music or background noise, just him and a look that said it all. Fans who had been divided began to rally behind him. Trending celebrities started liking his posts, and some who had remained silent started posting cryptic messages of support. The energy had changed. It wasn't just gossip anymore. People saw a man, broken man, and it touched a nerve. Meanwhile, behind the scenes, Chrissy was allegedly attempting to contact Jim. According to a source familiar with the matter, she sent him several texts and voice notes in an attempt to calm things down, but he didn't respond. Some said he wasn't ready, while others thought he was completely stupid. The press began circling blogs and publishing timelines in an attempt to determine when the alleged affair may have begun, revisiting and dissecting old interviews for clues, including instances where Chrissy smiled at Camron a bit too often, and when Jim's body language seemed strange. While emotions remained raw, fans played detectives, and Camron's silence started to work against him. At one point, it appeared to be indifference, but now it appeared to be avoidance. Fans demanded answers, saying, "You owe Jim the truth." Real men don't hide. They speak up. However, Camron remained silent and instead shared a picture of himself and Jim from the early days of Dipset with the caption, "Brothers fight, but blood is always thicker." This was the first time he had indirectly acknowledged the situation, and at the very least, it exacerbated the division. Was it an attempt to deflect or make peace, or was it a ploy? Fans were split, and Jim, in particular, didn't interact. Repost, like, or comment. Instead, he posted another cryptic story, this time with the quote, "Sometimes the bond you thought was unbreakable was already broken. You just didn't see it." A bombshell email that purportedly came from months ago, between Chrissy and her close friend David, was leaked. In it, she vented about feeling emotionally distant from Jim and acknowledged that Camron understood her in ways that Jim never did. The email wasn't verified, but it spread like wildfire, making fans feel betrayed all over again. Jim again chose not to respond directly, but that night he posted an old clip from a concert in which he and Camron were performing on stage, arms around each other, grinning with the caption, "Those were the days." Fans took that one post as a farewell, a silent farewell to the bomb that once was, and Chrissy felt too much pressure. Just see pieces, no explanation, no follow-up, but fans were relentless and flooded her DMs. Her comments demanded answers, some offering sympathy, others calling her out, and somewhere in all of this chaos, one truth remained: that once trust is broken, it is nearly impossible to put it back together. Whether the affair happened or not, or whether the rumors were fabricated, one thing was certain. Jim felt betrayed, and that feeling, once it settles in, is hard to erase. Whether they would recover from it remained a mystery, and for fans waiting for updates, it was the most emotional saga they'd seen in a long time. Even longtime fans didn't eyed it coming. With every passing day, more people were drawn into the emotional whirlwind. Even those who didn't usually follow or ship drama found themselves captivated by the unfolding situation. It had gone beyond entertainment. It felt personal to many. Like watching a family fall apart in real time. Jim's demeanor shifted further. He stopped posting selfies, stopped promoting his projects, and even pulled out of 2 scheduled appearances. Sources close to him said he wasn't eating right, wasn't sleeping much, and had completely shut down communication with everyone, except his mother and a few childhood friends. One even claimed he'd been spending his nights driving around the city trying to clear his head. blasting old Dipset tracks that once symbolized unity and brotherhood. Meanwhile, Chrissy's silence continued to speak louder than words. She was seen once briefly outside a cafe in Harlem wearing large sunglasses and a hoodie pulled low, paparazzi. Managed to snap a few blurry photos and while she didn't say anything, her expression was heavy, as if she was carrying more than just regret. Rumors circulated that she had been told by her team to keep quiet until things calmed down, but fans were not letting that go. One fan even dug up an old interview from years ago in which Chrissy had called Camron family. Fans were twisting that line, calling it a code word, saying it had all been in plain sight the entire time. Then came the podcast, which was supposed to be a laid-back, low-key episode of a show Jim had agreed to appear on months earlier. The hosts were friends, and the atmosphere was casual, but what happened live on air would go viral online in a matter of minutes. Jim arrived quiet and subdued. He wore dark sunglasses, kept his hood up, and hardly smiled for the first 20 minutes. The conversation was lighthearted, discussing music memories and past performances, but the host casually asked about loyalty, referring to how the industry can sometimes test friendships. Jim paused. He leaned forward, removed his glasses, and stared directly into the camera. "Loyalty isn't what it used to be," he said in a steady, low voice. "People will smile in your face, call you brother, and ask you dirty things behind closed doors. The worst part is that you don't even find out from them. You find out from the streets." The host went silent, and no one dared to interrupt. Jim wasn't shouting, nor was he angry, but there was something in his tone that made it seem colder than if he had screamed. Imagine sharing your dreams, your home, and your heart with someone, building everything together, and then waking up one day and realizing it was all just temporary, a setup betrayal in disguise. He continued. The chat section of the podcast blew up instantly. Comments poured in faster than the host could even read. D-fans typeted things like, "He's discussing Chrissy and Camron, and this is devastating." One of the hosts tried to change the subject by asking if Jim thought there was any chance of reconciliation. Jim didn't hesitate, saying, "Some things break too deep, EP, and I don't want apologies. I want peace, and peace doesn't come from people who lie to you with a straight face." While others begged him to clarify, Jim didn't need to name names because everyone already knew. When the episode's live-ended clips went viral, fans created compilations, reaction videos, and even heartfelt tributes to Jim's pain and loyalty once more. For the first time, even those who had defended Chrissy started to change their minds. But things weren't finished yet. A few hours after the podcast aired, an audio recording purportedly taken by someone else surfaced. The video, which was taken during a private disagreement between Jim and Chrissy a few weeks ago, showed sounds that were remarkably similar to their own. It was intense and emotional, and Chrissy could be heard saying, "I never meant for things to go that far." Jim retorted, "But you allowed him to come that close." Chrissy's team quickly denied the recording was real, claiming it had been manipulated, but many fans weren't buying it. They said the voices were unmistakable and the emotions were too real to be fake, whether it was authentic or not. The public had already made their decision, and Camron remained silent, so thousands of people flooded his most recent post, demanding that he speak up. Eventually, Camron posted a video to the story, which wasn't a statement but simply him in the studio, bobbing his head to an unreleased song with lyrics. The voice note, which was allegedly recorded by a mutual friend who was present during a private argument, featured a female voice that was thought to be Chrissy sobbing and saying, "I didn't mean to fall for him, it just happened, it was supposed to be nothing." The clip was brief, no more than 20 seconds, but it shocked the fan base because it seemed to confirm that the betrayal wasn't just emotional, it was romantic and possibly ongoing for Jim. It wasn't just about friendships, it was about a love he had built his entire adult life around, and now it appeared to have collapsed under secrets and mistakes. The following day, Jim finally broke his silence in a more personal way, not through a podcast or an indirect post, but rather through a video he uploaded to Page. The video wasn't polished, it looked like it was shot on a phone with Jim sitting on a couch. He started by saying, "I know you've been watching all of this like it's a show, but this isn't an episode. This is my real life. I'm hurting not because of the blogs or what you guys say, but because someone I gave my whole heart to wasn't honest with me." He paused, then went on. "I loved her, and still do maybe, but love isn't enough when trust is gone." His video was raw, full of visible emotion, and it broke down even the most skeptical Cal fans. Thousands of people left supportive, loving, and virtual consoling comments, and even celebrities began reposting the clip with messages of solidarity. Some said, "He was brave for opening up," while others said they saw a man whose soul had been bruised by those who should have protected it. Chrissy didn't publicly respond to the video. In a final twist, no one expected Jim's mother, who had always been outspoken and involved in his life, to go live. She said, "My son's been through too much to get played like this," addressing the Paisa drama directly. She said, "I don't care what history you all have, but real love just doesn't do this." Her words sparked a new wave of commentary, with some saying the family should keep things private, while others said it was too late and the story had already been told. Written itself across the internet, T, burned into the minds of millions, S. And just when people thought the drama had peaked, a D, rumors started to emerge that Chrissy and Camron had been spotted together alone at a private rooftop lounge in Brooklyn. No photos, S, just word of mouth from two people claiming to have been at the venue. While the claim couldn't be verified, it was all fans needed to run wild with theories. Some believed the rumors instantly. Others called it a smear campaign. But for Jim, it didn't matter anymore. He had already made up his mind.d. He unfollowed both Chrissy and Camron on all platforms, S, deleted old posts, S, and posted one final message to his story.y closure comes. Insolence. That silence, though, was louder than any of the accusations or confessions that had come before. As the dust began to settle, the future of their relationships remained unclear. Would Chrissy ever speak her full truth? Would Camron take accountability or deny everything till the end? And would Jim ever be able to fully move on from the betrayal that had shattered not just his love, but his faith in those closest to him? Only time would tell, but one thing was certain. Nothing would ever be the same again. The bond between Jim, Chrissy, and Camron had been tested in the most brutal way imaginable. And whether it was love, loyalty, or legacy, something had been lost that might never be found again. And just like that, what started as whispers turned into a full-blown storm that shook the internet to its core. Hearts were broken, alliances were shattered, and fans were left questioning everything they thought they knew about Jim Jones. Chrissy and Camron, this wasn't just drama, it was a complete unraveling of years of loyalty, love, and public image. Jim's silence screamed louder than any words ever could. Chrissy's refusal to clarify only deepened the mystery, and Camron's cool indifference, well, that might have been the biggest statement of them all. But now the question turns to you. What do you believe really went down between Chrissy and Camron that night? Was it just a moment of weakness or something that had been brewing under the surface for years? Did Jin know more than he revealed? Or was he really caught off guard like the rest of us? Will any of them ever come clean about this story? Or will it be forever wrapped in silence? Please share your thoughts in the comments section below. Which side do you support? Do you think Chrissy was misunderstood, or was this betrayal obvious? What about Camron? Did he cross a line that can never be uncrossed? If you were captivated by this crazy emotional roller coaster, don't forget to hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, and press the notification bell to ensure you don't miss another explosive update. Over, pay attention, and remain disorganized.